Welcome. I want to thank everyone for subscribing and watching my first video, and yes, I did name the channel. I also appreciated anybody that sent comments. I hope you all liked the first video, and yes, I named the channel Locksmithing Innovations. For the second video, we're going to call this one The Day Dan had a hard time getting his knob off. There you go. Little intrude is Dan is an apprentice at the shop I work for. Very talented lockpicker. Picked a 6-pin Schlage, and I was sitting working on some emails at the computer nearby, and he was having a hard time getting the knob off of the Schlage knob set. I don't know if it was an entry or an 80 function. The customer had brought it in. And I'm sure we've all been in this situation where we've been given a lock without keys, and to tear it apart and make keys for. What happens during this process is we normally, if it's not on a door, we'll take it to the truck, clamp it in the vise on our bench, and go to picking it. And once we get it picked, we try to get it off. Now, there's one problem that we've all had, I'm sure of, because I've had it several times over my years, and this just set a light off in my head that there's got to be an easier way. And basically, what it was once we have it picked, if we're not careful, the thing will spring load back to the lock position. And this occurs time and time again. Now, I must tell you, this channel is not about picking locks. There's many other individuals on YouTube that have great channels on picking, and I tell every new person or new apprentice that's in the industry to follow them. And I certainly have no problem giving a shout out to Bosnian Bill, Lock Picking Lawyer, or the Lock Noob. Excellent picking channels, and this channel is not about picking. This channel is about innovations, tricks and tips, and little gadgets and tools, little items that make our job easier as locksmiths. So, saying that, I'm going to tell you right off, I'm not tearing this cylinder apart. I'm going to tell you I pinned it to all fours all along to make it easy to demonstrate in the video and show you obviously what occurs and always occurs or can occur. So I'm going to just quickly zip this one and hopefully get her done in no time. So, and of course that's when my vise gives up, so we're going to redo that. Stick maybe a different tension wrench in there, and it's always the case when you go to pick it, you just are going to have that little problem. And as I say, this vacuum vise has been giving me trouble for a little while now, so we'll get this thing. But in the okay, so it's picked, even though I got a pry bar tension wrench at the bottom there. Okay, now we know that we've got to, now I'll tell you this right now, I never take my tension wrenches normally to turn a cylinder against the spring. You can see it's quite a spring action, and a lot of times it'll slip out, and then boom, I don't get the knob off in time. Sometimes I have to transfer from a tension wrench because I don't like over torquing them to whatnot, and then boom, next thing you know, she snaps back. Now the tension wrench won't come out quick, but she snaps back into the lock position, and you're starting all over again. So basically I've set up some keys just to demonstrate that. there you go, snapping back if my tension wrench comes out prematurely or whatnot. And I haven't got my knob off, so I'm right back picking it. And obviously, if it wasn't all fours, it'd be in trouble. So, as I said, light bulb went out. There's got to be an easier way. So very quickly, I turned around and I took a Schlage style latch, an old one we had. I don't know if it had a faceplate on it or whatnot, but you can see I drilled a hole in it there, and boom. And next thing you know, I'm not inserting it like you normally would, but I'm turning the knob first before I insert it, because the idea here is for that to push down the spring, and then I would put in the Allen key, and away we'd go to the hole I drilled in the latch. So now that's holding the spring tension off of it, and if I turn this, you see it stays in the turn position. I can get the knob off without fighting it. So that worked, but I found it cumbersome and hard to place in the vise and whatnot. Obviously our workbenches don't have this vacuum multi-position vise. It just has a standard vise, just like most of our trucks do, and it was like, okay, this works, but this is a problem, because the problem exists because, you know, you can't get it clamped in the vise. So that's phase one. So yes, did it work? Yes. Now, the next thing is I says, well, there's got to be a better way yet still. So we got a bunch of these multi-lock plastic plugs that all the multi-lock come from the factory with, that don't have, so you don't have to load the Bible. So it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. What about if I cut one of these to the right thickness, and then when I turn it, I wedge it in there. And look at that. Now I can do something similar there. And as I said, I set this key up because I didn't want to pick 100 times. And there you go. Same thing. Okay? It's in the turn position. Now I can take the knob off with no problem and pick it with no problem. Clamp it in my vise with no problem. So, and this worked good. It's worked really good. But then I started thinking, okay, I had problems getting this little plastic plug out at times after I'd finished it. Didn't always drop out. So I found a nut with a nylock. Worked, but it really got to get it all the way down there before I get it wedged in there. And as you can see, hard. So I went to my favorite hardware store or whatnot, Home Depot, on the way into work. Started sizing up other nuts, and as you can see there, I found one that goes in there, slips in there really nice, and there you go, it's in there. Now, those nuts, I actually kept the receipt. Those nuts cost, at our local Home Depot, and this is Canadian, of course, 37 cents a piece. So I have one now in my service truck on the magnet, tool magnet, that'll always stay there just for that purpose. And I put a couple in the shop. Now, one thing that Dan did mention was, yeah, but you know, somebody might just grab that nut and use it as a nut. And he's correct. So I might powder paint them, or I might put weld in there so that there's no way they'll ever use it as a nut. And it's just a tool. The nice thing is I can put my knob depressor I carry in my shirt pocket and poke the knob to pull the nut out. Now, as you can see, this is a storeroom function, but the same thing occurs with the entrance function. So even though it's unlocked, if you go to pick it and that nut's not in there, you see, your spring is bringing this back. So Now, what I normally do too is I take the knob and I start to take the inside knob off just enough that it helps me turn the latch retraction back enough that I can just place that in there nicely, then pop it off, and it's easy to clamp in the vise without a problem. And wham bammo, you're in your vise, ready for your picking. And there you see the key comes out. Now without that nut in there, it's going to spring back. So boom, we're going to try to get this. There we go. It fell out. So this is not a tool as much as it is an item. So you can see here, boom, back to lock, you see. Snaps back to lock. Okay? So that is this week's video, and I hope you comment and share. Now the one time, just to show you, the one time this does not occur is when you get a clutch, a new clutch lever. If it's not a if it's a rigid lever, same thing's going to occur. But as you can see, with your clutch, it doesn't start to retract that latch until it goes from, if this was 12, it's starting around 3 o'clock, goes to 6 before it retracts your latch. So on a clutch model lever handle, you don't have the same thing occurring. So you don't need your nut. So you pick it like normal, it doesn't spring back, you're not picking and bending your tension wrench against your spring. So that's this week's video. The day Dan had a hard time getting his knob off. I hope you like it, I hope you comment, and I hope you subscribe, and thanks for watching.